Welcome to Live a Life. We have previously done a photo comparison between the two big boys, the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Both did a very phenomenal job capturing stunning photos. But what about videos? Every year, we've always heard that the iPhone has a superior video quality in all of the smartphone cameras. But the specs on the S21 Ultra actually looks promising. So now, let's see how it takes on the king of smartphone videography, the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Before we jump right into the video, if you haven't watched our photo comparison between the two, the link is in the description. And as always, don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to see more great contents in the future. And without further ado, let's get right on to it. First, let's talk about the specs. The Galaxy S21 Ultra can shoot video up to 8K at 24 frames per second, for now at least. However, that's limited to only the main lens. If you want to use other lenses, you will have to step down to 4K 60 FPS instead. But that's still very impressive. On the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the numbers aren't much different from the S21 Ultra. Every camera on the iPhone can go up to 4K 60 FPS as well. However, the iPhone can't shoot 8K due to the sensor's resolution of only 12 megapixel, so you need at least a 33 megapixel to do so. So spec-wise, we could say that both phones came with the best of the best components and presented what each brand has to offer. But how would they actually perform is a whole different story. Let's first start with 4K 30p. On the main camera, both look fantastic. It's really difficult to spot the differences when not zooming in. But if you punch in, you will definitely see the differences. The iPhone 12 Pro Max really maintains more detail than on the S21 Ultra. Text are a lot more readable, and the color of the leaves are well saturated, while on the S21 looks a little bit pale. Here, it looks like the S21 Ultra has more dynamic range. The shadow isn't crushed, but there is noise here. While on the iPhone counterparts, the shadow looks crushed, but there is definitely less noise. The ultra-wide camera shows a very similar result on both phones. They are both not great, with lack of details, contrast, and saturation. But here in the corner, the iPhone 12 Pro Max appears to be a little bit better than on the S21 Ultra. The structure and the details are well maintained here on the iPhone. When switching to the telephoto, the S21 Ultra definitely has a better result. The S21 has a lot more detail than on the iPhone. Texts are totally readable, while on the iPhone isn't. The further optical zoom of 3x helped maintain the detail better than the 2.5x on the iPhone. The 8K gives the shooter more flexibility to crop the video while losing minimum resolution, but switching to 8K, cropped in a fair bit, the 8K looks a lot softer, lacks in contrast and punchiness when compared to the 4K on the iPhone. But the detail on the 8K is definitely better than on the 4K. The detail is far more superior. You can see lines, structures, and even wires on the 8K, while all you can see on the 4K is just a mushy looking thing. The S21 Ultra appears to have more dynamic range. The highlight on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is totally blown. However, there is much more noise on the S21 Ultra. The overall image quality is much cleaner on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Also, there is an HDR mode for both phones, and this is what it looks like. One thing to note is that it's still a test feature on the S21 Ultra. While playing around a little bit on the device, it really looks great. However, it's still too bright and too contrasty. While the HDR mode on the iPhone the difference is not really that noticeable. You guys can tell right away that the low light on Samsung is not that great. It looks like the video is going to fall apart, while on the iPhone it contains a clean and detailed image. The Samsung night mode feels a bit too contrasty for my taste, and they tend to over-sharpen the video so they look unnatural, but the iPhone footage looks well lit while keeping the contrast to moderate level. In this video, you can clearly see that on the Samsung S21 Ultra, the detail on the road becomes really mushy from denoising, but when exposed by car light, the road becomes more detailed, then goes back to being mushy. While on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the road is moderately textured in low light and stays the same when the car passes, so the iPhone feels more consistent overall. The color on the S21 Ultra is more vibrant than on the iPhone, sometimes too bright. Moreover, the red on the S21 appears to be orange rather than red, while on the iPhone, the red box on the right is a little pale than what it actually is. On the S21 Ultra, there is an optical image stabilization on every lens, except for the ultra-wide lens. On the other hand, the iPhone has a sensor shift stabilization on the main sensor and optical image stabilization on the other two cameras. Here, the iPhone has a smoother looking video with overall better image quality. The stabilization on the S21 Ultra has electronic stabilization there too, which will be very obvious when there's a footstep shake to stabilize. The details are completely messed up by the Samsung as well. For the ultra-wide, Samsung generally looks a little bit steadier, and this time the detail is a lot more comparable than on the main sensor. The highlight is still maintained on the S21 Ultra, while it is overexposed on the iPhone. Oh, and the 12 Pro Max has a green tint to the image as well. On the telephoto side, both aren't really good at stabilizing the image, but the iPhone did a little better at keeping the frame still, while the S21 Ultra footage really swings around. Plus, there is a really obvious electronic image stabilization to be seen on the S21 Ultra, while it's less obvious on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. The image quality is cleaner on the iPhone as well. And on the 10x lens, it's nearly impossible to keep the subject in frame. Check out for yourself. Samsung also took a step further by including a super steady mode, which lowered the resolution to Full HD on the ultra-wide lens and stabilized the footage by cropping. It's really super steady, but at a cost of some image quality. But I'll say it's worth it. Both phones can do a Full HD slow-mo up to 240 frames, but from what we tried, the Samsung is somehow feels slower than on the iPhone, and when we checked, the iPhone slow-mo is only at 157 frames instead of 240. For the autofocus, the story is very similar to the photography. The iPhone tends to do a little bit better here. It's faster, smoother, and really snaps to the subject really well, even on busier background where the Samsung don't really perform well, even with the brand new laser autofocus system.
This is a microphone test between the Samsung Galaxy S21 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max in a pretty quiet environment. Which one do you like? Comment down below. I'll let you be the judge. This is a mic test between the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max in a pretty noisy environment. So, which one do you like? Comment down below. I'll let you be the judge.
The S21 Ultra also came with a special little feature in the default camera app, like the Video Pro mode, where you can adjust the camera settings on the fly. Things like ISO, aperture, and white balance are right at your disposal, within the reach of your thumb. This might be very useful for those professional camera guys who might prefer full control over their smartphone camera. Another interesting feature on the S21 Ultra is the portrait video, where the camera uses AI processing to create depth of field effect over certain subjects. But as you can see in the video, the effect feels pretty fake, and the blurred edge around the person is not very clean just yet. The S21 Ultra also came with a special cherry on top, like their new director's mode, where you can toggle a preview between 3 focal lengths simultaneously within the camera UI, so you can get the feel of being a director. But to be honest, it feels kinda gimmicky, and I can't really find a good scenario to utilize this feature. To sum everything up, I would say that the iPhone 12 Pro Max wins this competition. It can produce a better image quality overall in various different scenarios. While the S21 Ultra performs really well, it still lacks certain key elements that makes it a great camera for video. So, what do you guys think? Leave comments down below. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the bell icon to see more great contents in the future. See you guys next time. Stay safe.